Hi, I'm Paul Moss, and I'm here to talk to you today in this pre-recorded talk about plant health and well-being as an organizing principle of crop agriculture. This is being associated with the American Society of Agronomy International Annual Meeting. First, a little about myself. I have undergraduate degrees in biology and botany, and graduate degree in weed science and marketing. I'm currently a fifth-year PhD student at the University of Minnesota Department of Geography, Environment, and Society. And I've had a long-standing interest in issues related to plants and people, particularly in the ethical aspects of this connection. I'm also co-founder and executive director of the nonprofit The Plant Initiative, which is working to build a movement to increase respect for plants. Today, I'm here to talk with you about a different way of looking at crop plants, considering agriculture essentially from the plant's perspective rather than the human perspective. As we all know, from the human perspective, crop plants offer many benefits. They yield products that we can consume or that can be sold, and also are ingredients for other products by animals or industrial goods. And of course, they generate profits to help support individual producers, communities, businesses throughout the economy. Crop plants also can have environmental benefits, especially depending on how they're grown. And so they can increase soil health through adding organic matter to the soil and supporting micro and macro soil biodiversity. They can help out with sequestering carbon, and that can help to addressing global climate change. And they can also help to increase water quality and decrease soil erosion, again, depending on the production practices that are used. But do crop plants' lives have intrinsic value for their own sakes? And that's a question really of ethics. And we can define ethics as a philosophical approach that considers what is right and what has moral value. Ethics essentially concerns how we ought to live and how our moral compass is oriented. In terms of agriculture, there's been a lot of thought about ethics in agriculture from a lot of different perspectives in recent years. And these have included issues such as animals in agriculture, biotechnology, plant patenting, research, equity issues. And there are a number of different resources here that I think are great starting points for those who are interested in that topic. There's a reference list at the end of this presentation, and the detailed references for how to find these can be found there. So is there a basis to consider crop plants then from an ethical perspective? I would say yes. And one approach is to look at certain characteristics that crop plants and all plants have. And these can include the ability to feel, capacity for sentience, demonstrating intelligence. This is similar to the way that people look at animals and looking at extending to animals ethical treatment. And so there is scientific evidence that this is the case with plants. These scientists have all written books that summarize some of this information about plant sentience, intelligence, and communication. Essentially, what they're saying is that plants are able to sense a lot in the environment, many parameters. They're able to integrate that information, and then they're able to respond in intelligent ways that help to preserve that plant's life. So they're constantly decision-making based on what they perceive and evaluating alternatives, which is basically what all intelligence is. So one way we could say then is that if plants are intelligent and we feel that intelligent beings need to be treated with respect, then we need to treat plants with respect. My concern with that argument or approach is just that it's relatively arbitrary. It's basing our responsibility to treat plants ethically on certain characteristics that they have or don't have. And so it's somewhat anthropocentric. It's looking at human characteristics that we have that we value in ourselves, and we're saying then that we would value those other beings that have those same characteristics that we have. So although there is data that's supporting sentience in plants, I don't suggest basing a system on ethics on that. Instead, I think it's more productive if we consider plants as just living beings, and that all living beings are deserving of respect and of ethical treatment. So this is consistent with approaches, biocentric approach from Paul Taylor or ecocentric approach from Aldo Leopold. It's also consistent with indigenous perspectives about how all beings are related, and that incorporate principles of respect and reciprocity, such as Robin Wall Kimmerer and Gregory Kahete. So we're talking about a lot of living beings here. I did some estimates just based on USDA acreage data and standard estimates of plants per acre, and came up with that there are tens of trillions of crop plants that are grown in the United States each year. And this is just the United States. And this does not include all crop plants. This is just 8 large crop plants. But you can see that they're literally, these are numbers in billions, but there's literally, tens of over 50 trillion crop plants are grown each year. And so we're talking about a lot of living beings, and considering them in an ethical, from an ethical perspective, I think is important. So, but whatever the justification, what does it mean to treat crop plants ethically? The authors on the left here, the 5 authors, have come up with a variety of different frameworks for plant ethics and crop plant ethics. So I tried to boil them down into these 4 abilities. And essentially what they're saying is that an ethical approach towards plants would allow plants to have and exercise these abilities. So these would include the ability for the plant to live their life autonomously and to self-regulate in response to stress, ability to complete their life cycle and reproduce in a plant-appropriate way, ability to express the typical characteristics of their species, and the ability to fulfill their ecological roles. So how would that look in practice? First, there is no perfection here. We do acknowledge that we have to kill plants to live, and we need to extract benefits from them. So it's always going to be a work in progress, but we can improve the way that we consider plant lives and give them greater respect. As Hirno points out, as related to plants in agriculture, the question is probably not what we're allowed or forbidden to do with plants in absolute terms, but how to privilege practices that are healthier than others. So what are some of these healthier approaches towards crop plants? I would point to agroecological and regenerative approaches as a good foundation for this. These are cropping practices that can increase soil health and plant health and well-being by promoting healthy soil microbiology. They often involve avoiding tillage. They utilize diversified cropping systems, such as cover crops, intercropping, crop rotations. They ideally avoid chemical fertilizers and pesticides, and integrate animals appropriately into agricultural systems. And some of the advantages of agroecological and regenerative systems, are agricultural sustainability, the environmental and ecosystem benefits, human health, and of course, benefits for farmers and rural communities. But there are other issues that need to be considered as well. And some of these issues do not necessarily always translate into a win-win situation. These involve serious thought about the way we grow plants and the way we might grow them differently in the future if we want to consider ethical concerns. So these involve allowing plants to complete their natural life cycle, taking steps to do this, allowing for natural reproduction through saving and planting seeds harvested from crop plants, minimizing the waste of crop plants and crop products, and safeguarding and promoting crop variety diversity and preserving integrity of crop plant genomes. It also includes growing crops that can produce products without leading to the death of the plant, actively creating conditions to foster plant partnerships with other organisms, growing plants only in soil and natural environments, not hydroponically, and generating feelings of respect and gratitude for crop plants. So what now? I would say it's time for next steps to explore this. This issue is not going away. The mainstream public is more and more aware of the agency and sentience of plants, and I think that is going to evolve into a desire to see plants treated more ethically based on the way they, their true capacity. So additional thinking is needed in this area, and I'm suggesting that collaborative conversation or working group through ASA or CSSA to further consider crop plants from an ethical perspective and to understand these issues would be useful. So in terms of your thoughts, this is a pre-recorded presentation right now, but there will be a live discussion on Tuesday, November 8th, associated with the annual meeting for those who would like to have a conversation about this presentation. Be a half hour starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And here's the Zoom link. So you're all welcome to participate if you would like. Here's the first set of references here. And again, if these are references that you would like me to send to you because they're here on the slide and you don't have access to them here, my contact information will be on the last slide. This is the second group of references. And then this is the contact information. So I can be reached either through my University of Minnesota email address or through the Plant Initiative. And I hope you'll also consider visiting the Plant Initiative's website and perhaps subscribing to our free monthly email newsletter if you're interested in some of these topics. So thanks so much for your attention and look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.